All right, guys, welcome to Elation, where we find exhilarating euphoria through creation and collaboration. We're here today to talk to Vincent Scallan about things in his life that create elation for him, as well as his work experiences, and things that have shaped his life. So let's move right into some of the, I guess, pivotal moments that in your life that led you to becoming an attorney.
Wow. Well, hey, David, thanks. Great to be here on Elation, my first podcast that I filmed, so it's exciting for me. Uh, so I'm sorry, the question is, repeat this question again?
Yeah, okay. So, and actually, I'm bad at this. I got to start
Yeah.
some beginning warm up bullshit stuff.
I listen to
but-
enough podcasts to know I have to say thank you for being here. And
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
no,
stuff,
no
all that
worries.
good
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, Fox News too. You got to say that, But no. So the question is basically like, I know you enjoy being an attorney. I know you enjoy helping people. But what was the moment in your life that triggered you to say, you know what, I'm going to take this career path seriously?
Wow. Well, it was always serious because it's a job, and the purpose of a job is to earn a living. And that was always something that was very serious to me. And I hate to boil it down to something as simple as, I wanted to make money, but financial security and having a job was the most important thing to me at a young age.
Right. So,
Yeah.
well, so when you decided to go to college, you already wanted to be an attorney.
Actually, no. I started college. I was a mass communications major. Like a lot of college kids, I really didn't know what to do. It was
Right.
just going to college. I was interested in mass communications. I thought maybe I would be a sportscaster or somebody on the news. I knew I would talk for a living.
Right.
But I just found that path to be not the path I wanted to go down. Very competitive, and just I was drawn to the law. I mean, I knew I had an interest in it as a young age. From a young age, I had an interest in the law. And I did mock trial competitions. I had fun arguing, and that's a lot of people tell you, growing up, you should be a lawyer. You should be a lawyer because you can argue. Now, obviously, it's a lot more than that, but it was a fit for me, and before I even knew it, I didn't even know it was a fit for me.
I got
So
you.
it was just something I thought I'd go to law school to open up opportunities for me. Not even necessarily being a lawyer. I
I
just
got you.
thought it would open up certain opportunities, whether it was in law, whether I was interested in politics and government.
Right.
I thought maybe I'd be a lobbyist.
So it's true. I mean, going to school for law helps you in many careers. I mean, I definitely know a lot of people who have gone into that realm and have done other things with it. But I think the two best things you can truly go to school for is law and marketing. I think other than that, I feel like there's a lot of degrees that don't necessarily turn you into opening doors and actually start closing doors for you, because it kind of shelters you in certain ways. But I think law and marketing opens you up to the world, because you can truly turn that into any business model if you understand the law and you understand marketing.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, there is a legal component to everything that we do
Right.
in this world. Whether it's just what I do every day in civil litigation, or it's real estate purchases or successions when someone dies, when you purchase, any business deal, it's when you're arrested. I mean, when you get divorced, there's always a lawyer
Always a
involved.
lawyer involved.
Not too far away.
Right,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, as a career path, it is going to open you up to so many things if you find that path you want to go down.
Right.
So it's always there.
What was your and you went to LSU, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, what was your path when you left LSU? Did you want to go work for a firm, or did you want to start your own thing right away?
Yeah, well, no, when I left LSU, I went to LSU undergrad and I went to law school at LSU. So that was basically an extension of my undergraduate career. I got to spend 3 more years at LSU. LSU won a national championship in football.
No, you had no fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was like being in college for 3 more years, to be honest. But, fast forward to getting out of law school now, and I am starting to, enter the real world, and I just wanted a job. I had incurred, $100,000 in student loans. School was officially over for me,
Right.
and it was time to work.
Right.
And it was time to make money, and I had to pay back these loans. So I just wanted a job anywhere that would hire me, start paying back these loans, and begin my life.
Right.
So I would have taken anything and everything that was available at that time. However, at the time I got out of school in 2009, we're at the height of this recession, right? 2008, 2009, the market crashes and everything goes crazy, and nobody's hiring, and that affected every industry.
Right.
And lawyers.
Right.
Law firms weren't hiring.
Absolutely.
So I come out of law school, and my grades were very mediocre, and you're ranked in your law school. So there was nobody hiring me.
Right.
Nobody in my family was a lawyer. I had no legal connections whatsoever. So I was looking for a job, and I was looking for anything I could get, and I couldn't get it. So
that humbles you a lot.
Oh, it humbled me incredibly. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just the probably one of the most, pivotal moments in my young career, because I had to take a job, to be a productive member of society. I wanted to have a job. I wanted an income. I took a job as a bank teller, earning $11 an hour.
Wow.
With a law degree.
Wow.
And that was humbling.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. It's a noble profession. It's
100%.
a great profession, but you go to school for all these years and you have these great aspirations. You think you're going to be a lawyer. You think you're going to earn more money. And here you are. So it was incredibly humbling.
Well, and kudos for you for making the decision on that, because, a lot of people are going to stick to their, probably stick to their guns a little too much, thinking that they deserve more and thinking that working there is beneath them in a sense, because they were looking for something up here. But what I tell people all the time when they ask me for advice, I just say keep working, because no matter what you're working towards, if you're getting up out in the morning every day and you're going to accomplish a goal, that goal will give you other goals to accomplish. Eventually, you will find a path. But if you stay home and don't actually put in any work, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's better to say yes to the job you don't want to do and get out and put some work in and see where it takes you, than to just sit and wait for something that may never come.
Yeah, no, right on. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. At the time, you don't know that this job as a bank teller is going to lead to anything other than just a paycheck every few weeks. But yeah, I mean, the act of getting out of bed every day with purpose.
Right.
And look, I'd get up and I'd go to work and I'd walk 3 or 4 blocks to the bank, and I was sad.
Right.
And all I wanted, I would walk by the Supreme Court. Louisiana Supreme Court was in the French Quarter.
Right.
Across from the bank that I was working at. I'd walk by this Supreme Court every day. And many mornings were spent, I was very sad, walking down the street, sometimes in the rain,
right.
And but it does create a drive. It makes you want that so much more.
Well, it makes you appreciate it more when you get it too.
And without a doubt. And I remember years later when we started having some success, and I would go into the banks to deposit these, nice sized checks, and I'll see the bank teller, and those memories are all too recent for me.
Right.
I feel it, every time I go into the bank, I remember what it was like doing that job.
Right.
And so that is an integral part of my story, and I think without that experience, I don't know where I'd be today.
Right.
Really.
Well,
so.
Awesome. Well, what was the moment where things started to click, and things started to move at a pace and in a progression that you were, really working towards?
Well, look, it did take some time, but I'll say at a certain point, I'm still working for the bank in a back office position, but I still wanted to be a lawyer, and I was interviewing for jobs, and I wasn't getting them. And I had a good friend who was also a practicing attorney, and he told me one day, we were out at a party, he said, "Man, why don't you just make some business cards and just start, helping people with some smaller things like divorces and DWIs." I mean, I knew about DWIs because I'd gotten one. I knew it was prevalent in New Orleans, and ironically, that's kind of what happened.
I'm sure we have a few friends that have gone through those too.
We have a lot of friends who have gone through that.
Yes,
and it's almost a rite of passage in New Orleans,
yes,
or Baton Rouge for that matter.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but and that was my first client. I mean, I had a friend of my brother's, and all they knew was that I was a lawyer. I was a licensed attorney, but they didn't know what I did. And truth be told, I wasn't really working as a lawyer, but I was a lawyer. I mean, I was certified. I was licensed by the bar. Anyway. And he said, "Vince, I know you're a lawyer, and my sister got a DWI. Do you think you can help her?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I said, "This is it. I can do this. I know I can do this." And look, I had the help of older, more experienced lawyers who would guide me along the way and tell me, "This is what you have to do. This is what you have to file." But I remember, never forget, my first client, I was living at home. I wasn't making any money. I was living in my parents' house. And my first client walked up to my parents' house and handed me cash, a $500 down payment for services.
Right.
And I remember, again, at my parents' house, we're having dinner, and I walk to the front door and take this person's money to start representing them. So that was, It took a lot longer after that, but with anything, I mean, one thing leads to another.
Yeah, well, there's a spark there, and that spark you can't deny in a sense, especially when you have a feeling of something that you want to do. When the first
Sure.
time you get paid for that moment, I mean, it's a surreal moment. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't. It took me 8 years of producing music before I got paid for my first beat.
Wow. Yeah.
And it wasn't much, but it made me feel like I created something out of thin air and I sold it to somebody. It almost proved the concept in my head, and so it
Yeah.
clicks, after
Yeah.
that moment.
You learn that you can do it.
Right.
And it really is. It does really just flow from there. I mean, there is one client turns to another client, turns to another client, and next thing you know, a year or two later, I'm realizing, whoa, I'm going to be self-employed.
Right.
I'm going to be self-employed my entire life, and I don't need a job. I have my
Right.
own job. I may not always do as well as I do in some years, but I can do this.
Right.
And so I think that was a big moment. Somebody to pay me for legal services. Sure.
I think one of the biggest obstacles people don't understand that they have in front of them is, and we kind of hit on it earlier, is literally you just have to try. And
Sounds so simple,
but
right?
it's not. It's really not though, because technically what you had to do was try to put your name on a business card to make it real.
Yeah.
And pass it out to friends and pass it out to people. You had to try that moment to get any clients, and that is it's something you have to look inside yourself and believe in yourself, even though nobody else around you believes in that moment yet.
Yeah, and sometimes you actually have to do that, right? You have to believe in yourself. For me, I didn't even know that I was doing that. I didn't
Right.
know that I was manifesting this. I was just trying to be a lawyer. I wasn't thinking, okay, if I pretend to be a lawyer, if I tell people I'm going to represent them for this and take their business, that I'm just going to be a lawyer. It was just doing what I had to do to survive and to stay in this game of law.
Right.
Not knowing it at the time, but it also just happened to work out with my personality, right? And the age of social media, right? We came up in this, I was on Facebook a year or two after it started in college.
Right.
I've been on social media from the start.
Right.
And I was a friendly, sociable person in college and in law school and at home, and we knew people.
Right.
And
Right.
as soon as the world knew that I was licensed attorney, people come out the woodwork and hey, I know you're a lawyer. Can you help me with this?
Right.
Do you know anything about this? And some things I didn't, but some things I'd sit down, I'd research it, and I'd give them some advice. And hey, I can't help you. I can't make money on it, but here's some advice.
Right.
But you'd be surprised how those clients came back and
Right.
come back years later.
Right.
With something.
Well, it's all. I mean, business is all relationship based. I mean,
Without a doubt.
I believe in relationships more than talent, and especially bringing it into the music world. There's so much talent, but the credibility and the trustworthiness and the things that you build with people are better, in my opinion, than just actual raw talent.
Yeah.
So you have to have those relationships for long-term phone calls. I mean, those sometimes you don't get those calls for 4, 5, 6 years later.
Yeah.
But just having that good connection or that moment of good connection with somebody truly can spark something down the road.
And I think that was probably my gift, was that connection with people was very natural for me. It wasn't something I had to try or work at to do. And someone told me early on, there's a whole lot of lawyers out there.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of, it's every profession's diluted now, right? There's a whole lot of lawyers, there's a whole lot of doctors, there's a whole lot of real estate agents. I mean, but someone said we always need a good lawyer.
Right.
And you think, what's a good lawyer? Part of being a good lawyer is knowing the law, of
Right.
course, and knowing how to apply it to facts and knowing how to, navigate people through the system. But for me, I mean, being a good lawyer is connecting with an individual and getting the client to trust you to handle their legal matter.
Right.
So it is about connections, and
Right.
it is about your ability to connect with other people, and that
But you
came
have to
naturally.
care too.
Yeah, you can't
have
fake
to,
it.
You,
You can't
you,
fake
ha-
it.
you
right.
have to care to be a good attorney, because you can't take in a person's not insecurities, but their personal issues
Yeah.
whatever it may
Look,
be, and handle them properly without caring.
well, what I say, what I've always said is, especially when I had a lot of different practice areas, was everything that I'm handling, every client that I'm dealing with, I'm handling the most important thing in their life, whether it's their divorce, whether it's they were arrested,
Right.
whether they were injured in a car accident. At that moment, that is the most important thing to them. So yeah, of course you have to care.
Right.
It can weigh on you because you're dealing with everybody's most important thing in their life.
Right.
But
You're almost a therapist.
oh, you're 100% a therapist.
Yeah.
I mean, you are sitting on the phone talking about feelings and talking about the, very important things,
Right.
and yeah, and people cry and they cry regularly.
Right.
And you have to have some empathy,
Absolutely.
you have to, and you really, it's very hard to fake. I mean, you either have it or you don't, and I think that it always came naturally to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, what do you specialize in law? Is it personal injury or is it?
Well, yeah, and primarily these days it is personal injury, which
Okay.
is a great field to be in the area of law. It didn't start that way. Obviously, I told you I was representing folks for DWIs, for small criminal matters, for divorces, anything that would come through the door.
Right.
Personal injury work it's probably it's looked at as like a scarlet letter, in law school. There was the insult was you're going to be a personal injury lawyer, and that was meant to be a slight dig. It was in one way it was a mark on my personality for having the personality that I had, but it was also meant to be I was going to be not an insult, but that I was a certain type of way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was looked down. It's looked down upon, and it has a bad reputation, but you want to talk about a way to access the most people.
Right.
People are affected. I mean, you want to access the clients. People are getting in car accidents.
Right.
People are getting hurt on the job. People are tripping and falling. Accidents and bad things are happening to these people. And I look at personal injury work as our purest form of justice. It really is. I mean, it's something that's very unique to the American legal system and,
Right.
and you don't get in other countries, is that if anybody causes you harm, now that harm doesn't have to be a car accident. I mean,
Right.
it could be, I built my fence too high and I'm blocking your sunlight here.
Right.
It could be someone breached a contract, but you had this unique right that if somebody causes you harm and causes you damages, you can go to a courthouse and recover your damages. And it just so happens to resonate so much more in personal injury because that's
Right.
happening all the time.
Right.
So yeah, I look at it as, yes, I'm a lawyer and I'm a proud lawyer who handles personal injury cases. But I mean, it's like being a criminal defense lawyer. Say all the time, like, how do you represent somebody who's guilty?
Right.
And doing a small amount of criminal defense, I would say, well, we're protecting the system. Yes, it's terrible for a guilty person to get off
Right.
of the crime, but you're protecting the system so that the system will protect everyone else.
Right.
So, because I think it's worse. It'd be worse if an innocent person was convicted.
Correct.
Right. So if the system, if the police do what they're supposed to do, if the DA does what they're supposed to do, they're going to convict that person.
Right.
So a good criminal defense lawyer, I'm not talking about what I'm doing, but a good criminal defense lawyer, they'll exonerate, defendants based on technicalities.
Right.
Because evidence wasn't handled properly. But it's all these constitutional rights that, they're protecting.
Right.
So someone might get off and they might have committed a crime and they got off, but it's because
the
the state,
system
the
didn't
state,
do their
they
job.
didn't do their job.
Yeah.
So going back to what I do is we had this very basic right in the United States, and that is to be able to recover your damages, whoever causes it.
Right.
So by handling these car accidents, I'm saying, hey, you were negligent, you injured my client, you have to pay.
Right.
And so we're protecting the system for everybody. And when someone gets in a real serious accident, they're really badly hurt, that system is there to help them recover.
To really help. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Absolutely. All right.
Access to the courts, man.
Well, great. Well, what advice would you think you would give to someone just getting out of law school,
Yeah.
trying to find out where their life's going and what they should pick moving forward?
Yeah, I touched on it earlier. You always need a good lawyer, so the cliche is find something you love to do, but what you love to do doesn't always pay the bill. So you do have to strike a delicate balance in doing what you love and paying your bills.
Right.
But certainly, connect with people build relationships with people. If you love the subject matter of law, they're going to see that. They're going to see that you're good at, or you're knowledgeable about what it is, whatever field like practice field that you're in. They're going to see that.
Right.
So of course, love what you do, but connect with people, because that is the most important part of being a lawyer is connection and building those relationships. And if you want it bad enough, it's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen. It happens incrementally, but it does happen.
Just keep working.
Just keep working.
Yep.
Be a good person.
Yep.
Be a good person.
Yep.
And people see that and they feel that.
And I more than ever after COVID, I feel like being a good person connects with people, because you see it less and less and less. The mask definitely desensitized us to being human for a while, I think.
Sure.
I just quickly, because I know advertising for personal injury attorneys can get kind of funny and almost character-esque. A funny story about Morris Bart. I was at a party.
He's the legend.
Yeah. And kudos to the man. I mean, they're the number one personal injury attorney that I've seen.
Certainly in Louisiana.
Yeah, definitely. But built an amazing brand. But I had a moment with him. I was at a party for French Quarter Fest, and he was there, and a couple other people, and we were all sitting there talking, and him and I have a weird connection now. First of all, he knew my grandfather back in the day, and I'll tell you this story off of camera, but when he found out who my grandfather was, he goes, "Wait, you're David Burris's grandson?" He goes, "I've been to some wild parties at your grandfather's house." and
it's great to hear about your grandfather.
Yeah,
right?
So we had a moment about that, but and we were the same month that I got brought into Metairie Country Club was his month. So him and I were on the letter. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we started talking at the Metairie Country Club stuff because of that. But a couple months after that, I ran into him at a party, French Quarter Fest, and we're talking about golf. And he's saying how he's trying to get better and all this stuff. And I told him I was doing golf tech at the time.
Yeah.
And and kind of started talking to him about that. And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I've been hearing about that." He goes, "Yeah, but it's kind of hard to get into, don't you? Isn't it?" And I said, "Well, for you, I think it'll just be one call. That's all."
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
And he started dying laughing. It was just, it's one of those moments I got to throw it back at him. But it can get tricky, I feel like, with marketing,
Yeah, I mean, lawyer advertising, like will never have a strong opinion on what someone does to make a living, and I respect these lawyers who have pioneered that advertising route, and it is a business model.
Right.
It's a different business model than I think that I engage in, but it's a business model, and I have no right to comment on how someone makes a living. But certainly the mass advertising has been a stain on the profession. I think a lot of folks will agree with that.
Yeah.
It's given personal injury lawyers a bad name.
Right.
Because it's almost a badge of shame. Like, people call me and say, I'm not somebody who calls a lawyer when I get in a wreck. They're ashamed instantly.
Right.
I said, that's what I do every day. I mean, you're calling me because you were hurt, and the insurance company is not treating you fairly.
They don't care.
And you shouldn't be ashamed that you called a lawyer, but unfortunately, the advertising has kind of created that that stigma where you're the guy on the billboard.
A lot of the guys, a lot of the people that don't necessarily shouldn't be suing because it's either falsified or listen, my dad got sued by Morris 3 times for guys on a bike. Now I don't know why my dad's hit 3 guys on a bike. But
somebody in Morris Bart's law firm. It wasn't Morris Bart.
Well, it wasn't Morris himself. But the point is, like, and 2 of them were legit. Like, my dad was sitting at a stop sign, and the guy came on a bike and hits my dad's truck and goes over the hood.
Wow.
And he gets money. Like, and it's just, so I think things like that also kind of create a bad stigma.
Well, certainly. I mean, there's probably.
But that goes back to being a good lawyer, in my opinion.
Well,
I feel like you have to adjust or look at every client through a magnifying glass, saying like, all right, well, is this legit or not?
Well, yeah. Well, first and foremost, you want to make sure if you have a cause of action that cause of action has merit.
Right.
I'm not going to represent someone who was at fault for causing an accident. Right. I'm not going to represent someone who's not injured.
Right.
And if you're calling me because someone bumped you in a parking lot and you're thinking you're going to get a paycheck, you're calling the wrong lawyer.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, with anything, I think there's always a group of people bad apples who take advantage of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I guess people a bad name. People are tired of getting sued. People are tired of their insurance rates going up. And I understand that. Yeah. But I mean, that's all about the lawyer that you are.
Right.
And balancing that with, hey, I have to eat as well.
100%.
Yeah. So
100%. Well, what since we're here at Elation today, what brings elation to you in your life? What makes you the happiest? What brings you the happiest moments?
Well, I thought about that. First I had to get the definition of elation. So, and I knew it was something about happiness, but I knew it's great happiness, right? Exhilaration. But one step further, I look at elation as the culmination of something. You can't have elation all the time because life just wouldn't be worth living if you were just happy all the time.
Right.
Well, I guess it'd be great, but you wouldn't appreciate the elation.
Correct.
So look, it's elation for me is the culmination of something. Maybe I've worked hard for something. In this period of my life, it's where I'm not married. I don't have kids, so my elation has come from my profession,
right,
and my career, and the success that we've had in my success that I've had in my career, monetarily, business has been good, but also the connections I've made with people,
Right.
Being able to earn a living and connect with people every day is a blessing, I always tell people I'd rather not work at all. People ask me if I want to be a lawyer. I say, if I like being a lawyer, I said, I'd rather not work. But if I have to work, it suits me well and it fits me. So again, what brings me elation? Look, connection with people, laughing with somebody, having a good time with somebody,
right,
being on the golf course, joking, I love to connect with everybody, whether it's on a golf course, whether it's in a bar room,
yep,
whether it's, with a lawyer after we've done a deposition or we're in court sometime. It's just connection.
Yep. Well, knowing you personally, that was the right answer because that you definitely,
Good.
I can definitely see
Yeah.
that you love connecting with people, you love talking with people, learning with people, and just a short amount of time we've known each other, I can see that. So,
thanks, man.
Well, good for you, man. Thanks for coming through, and I appreciate
fun.
you talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah,
and
cool.
I absolutely am going to call you if I get in any type of issues.
Well, I tell people, call me first, no matter what. Even if I can't help you, I'm going to put you in the hands of somebody.
Put me in the hands, right? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thanks for coming through today, and I really appreciate you spending the time here at Elation. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where we can find you on social media and where would we look for you if we need an attorney?
Well, yeah, like everybody, I'm on Instagram, so it's at VPS Law. Facebook, Vincent P. Scallan Law. I have a group out there. Sure, if you Google me, you'll find me.
You have a website or anything?
Yeah, I have a website. www.vps. No, I'm sorry, I don't even remember. VincentPScallanLaw.com. I really would like to change the domain name, but I think VPS Law was taken. I do have a website, VincentPScallanLaw.com. But odds are you'll find me on social media. And look, the majority of my clients come from a friend or a former client, and they usually call my cell.
Right.
So I'm not going to give out my cell on the podcast, but you'll find me.
Well, don't worry. We'll have it rolling across the bottom line.
That's right. Yeah.
But all right. Well, great. Well, thanks, bud. I appreciate everything.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Welcome to Elation.